In tonight's video, I'm coming to you from a special location. Standing with me here is friend and fellow YouTuber, Alan from Revenge of the Apocalypse. When we became friends, we discovered that we both have a love for Halloween. And one thing I love to do is check out people's Halloween displays each and every year. Over the past few years, though, he's been building his own Halloween display. And I told him, I said, if you ever go crazy over the top, I'll personally come here and film your display. Safe to say this year is his biggest and most insane year yet. And he has everything from animatronics to inflatables to even a hearse and a casket. And I am unofficially dubbing him the King of Halloween. So we're going to get an up-close personal look at everything and find out what's involved to make this incredible display come to life each and every weekend. So I invite you to come along with me and the King of Halloween. So one thing Alan's going to touch base on is that this has actually been an uphill battle, specifically this year because one of his neighbors has given him a lot of grief, almost to the point of harassment, where they didn't want this display to happen. And it went as far as him, Alan, having a meeting with the mayor. But in the end, there was actually a newspaper article done specifically about him and his display. So I'm going to let him kind of fill you in a little bit on that.
Yeah, so initially what happened, which caused the problem, was that somebody actually tried saying that this was a all year round haunted house that I was charging admission to. I don't know where somebody gets that kind of an idea, because every year I've done decorations, I've just never done it this large. But it ended up being where I was put in the paper once, badmouth, because nobody reached out, nobody tried to, figure out what was even going on, or even came out to see the display. And from there it turned into, a confrontation of like, hey, like, you just completely said all this stuff, something's got to get figured out, what have it, because they initially talked about like zoning me, trying to make this a commercial property and so on and so forth, which for anybody that is wondering, this is not an HOA, this is just regular neighborhood, because I know that is one thing people ask when they hear this. But anyway, it ended up being a meeting with a bunch of people, including, zoning officer, town lawyer, and such. But essentially, everybody more or less agreed with what I was doing. They found out that it was rubbish, what was initially I was accused of. They were actually watching my YouTube channel to make sure, I wasn't doing anything wrong. So essentially they didn't want to see me selling things. They didn't want to see a for sale sign on the hearse, a for sale sign on any of this kind of stuff. So I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to make money off of anybody. So the ad revenue I get from filming it, and if anybody donates, they said it's fine. What they did was, though, is they zoned me for a permit to have the 20-foot inflatables, basically anything over 15 foot tall. And that was basically just so that way, for the next complaint, if there even is a complaint, they can say that they've more or less put me in a perimeter and have charged me, and I paid for a permit to be able to do this. So for a couple weeks, actually, while like it was kind of limbo, just kind of wondering what was going to end up happening, I really was worried that this was going to get shut down, because especially from talk from other people that went to like the town meeting, they really made it apparent that there was going to be like a big crackdown on this, and that I would end up actually having to take everything down, which luckily at the end of all that anxiety is not what happened. And then immediately after that, a lady from the paper did come here. She set up a time and a day. She came here, did a whole entire page, and actually promoted it and really showed everybody, what is going on here, and actually put in words, why I do this and what I'm doing it for, and like all of my intentions. So it's basically been corrected, and anybody that thinks anything otherwise, it's pretty much all right there in black and white. All right, guys, so this is my 2005 Cadillac DeVille hearse. Myself and RJ actually went all the way to Minnesota to get this thing, which was a miserable 16-hour drive one way. But my whole idea with actually having a hearse was because you can see houses that have inflatables, you can see houses that have animatronics or what have it with, decorations, but you really don't see any houses that have a hearse. And then especially with adding the casket to the hearse, I just felt like this was a staple that was more or less like the icing on the cake for the Halloween display. Okay, so right here is a look at the casket. This is how I have it displayed, just kind of hanging out in the back of the hearse with Home Depot's new for 2021 Inferno Reaper. I felt like it was most appropriate to have that animatronic with it because it seems more or less as if it's sealed somebody inside and is just waiting to take them to their grave.
So, Alan, I'm curious, are there any future plans for the hearse in the future?
A lot more. There's definitely a lot more future plans for the hearse.
All right, so I guess we're going to have to just stay tuned and see what happens next, right?
Oh, yeah.
Judgment has spoken. The old life you hung on to for so long will now be cleaved from you.
Maybe you could help me get out of here, you know, because I gotta tell you, this, check it out.
So, farthest to the left, we have the Morning Bride from Home Depot this year. In the middle is Angeline. She's last year's Spirit Halloween animatronic little girl sitting on a headstone, which is pretty creepy. And then we have this year's W. Wraith from Spirit Halloween. Alright, so this one here is Pennywise in the gutter. This is new from Spirit Halloween this year. This one is the Plague Doctor that actually came out Spirit Halloween last year. My first animatronic. And last year I didn't have the fog machine hooked up to him, but this year I have the fog going, which is kind of nice because it comes right out of the skulls and it definitely builds it more character. Alright, this is last year's model of Pennywise from Spirit Halloween. Nice jumping action.
So up here near the edge of his property does have some static displays of some skeletons, a couple other little lawn ornaments, but then we start getting back into some of the more detailed skeletons and animatronics we'll be picking up from here.
Alright, so this one here is Best Buy's shot at the 12-foot Home Depot skeleton. Again, it's 8 foot tall, basically the same exact thing, has the life eyes in it, but the only thing different is this one actually talks.
We woke up Grandpa again. Somebody better get him some candy.
And this is Home Depot's prized possession, the 12-foot skeleton, which goes on eBay for like $2,000 because people are ridiculous. But if you find him in the store, he's only $300 bucks, but he's well worth every penny of that.
Somewhere, and you will terrorize the living until we all this night. Are you with me? Tonight is ours.
And this one is this year's version from Home Depot. This is the Inferno pumpkin skeleton, where they've added a little bit more animation by giving it some fire inside of the mouth and chest. It's got the pumpkin head, again has the life eyes, but the whole body is basically all roots. And I think they did a killer job actually, you know, coming back and making a second variation of the skeleton. Alright guys, so this is actually one of the best valued, in my opinion, animatronics for this year. This came from Home Depot for $129. But what's crazy about it is that, one, you don't have to worry about connecting power to it because there's no other moving parts or lights except for inside of the pumpkin head. So it actually just relies on batteries. Underneath of the head is where you can install those, as well as the power and volume. But even everything else, as far as like how nice the clothing is, it has some fake leather on it, and even the strength of the tubing, like it's a very thick tubing, which is definitely different for an animatronic. And again, he's actually made really well in my opinion, and I think they could have easily charged around $200 for this one. But it's definitely a good value if you want an animatronic but don't have a lot to spend on, you know, other ones of a higher value.
I traveled far and wide to find what was taken from me. And oh yes, I will find it. My patience has been severely tested. I've waited hundreds.
Okay, so this one here is Harriet Hustle, new from Spirit Halloween. Does not come with the swing set A-frame. This was something that I purchased separate off of Amazon. But the way this one works, you actually can strap it just by the one strap here to just about anything if you have to put it on a tree limb or something like that. But considering what it is, I figured it looked best on an A-frame. But it's definitely a cool piece, and it is one of Spirit Halloween's cheaper animatronics. Alright guys, so this one is another new one from Home Depot. It was actually kind of a last moment purchase. I wanted to add another clown, which even though he's not really a clown, he's a dresser, kind of close enough. I wanted to add him next to Harriet Hustle, just so that way there was some sort of a circusy clown theme by themselves. But I ended up liking him a lot more than I thought I would after trying him out and having him in the display.
If not, you are in the wrong. Halloween always puts me in a frantic mood. I never know what crazy thing I'm going to do.
Alright guys, so the one that's here is, it was a good idea, but it was kind of a fail from Home Depot. This guy is the Pumpkinhead skeleton. He's supposed to go alongside of the 12-foot tall Inferno Pumpkin Reaper as a part of the Rotten Patch set this year. He has digital eyes, which do not work. A lot of people have actually had this problem, but again, he is actually only $60 to buy him if you found him in the store, which could probably make sense of why he doesn't work right, because for what he should be doing, I would assume he'd be worth a lot more. But other things though that are kind of an added value to him, he is actually fully posable, finger and toes, which is unique because this is one of the first 6-foot skeletons that actually feature fully posable limbs. So I still think he's worth having, but if you're going to pay an obnoxious amount on eBay, I would pass because the eyes most likely will not work.
Okay, so next up is going to be the inflatables, which is his main feature. Right here in the front, though, we just have a few of them from Nightmare Before Christmas. A couple smaller ones. What size are these ones?
These are
roughly
3.5 feet.
3.5 feet. So they do come all the way over here, ending with a few jack-o'-lanterns. But what Alan's going to talk about and describe are the mega inflatables in the background there. So we're going to dive into those right now.
Okay, so these are everybody's favorite with the display. The large ones here are all 20 feet tall, with the exception of the Jack Skellington. That one is 18 feet, but close enough to 20 that nobody notices anyway. And then they basically just kind of come down and gradually get smaller, because what happens is when you have them clustered in this sort of a way, they kind of help hold each other up. And then also when you do have wind and things like that, they kind of make their own little barrier where they bounce off of each other. So it kind of helps to have them in a formation like this. rather than having them, you know, sprawled out through the whole yard, separated.
So one question I'd like to know, I'm sure many of you like to know as well, is when did this display get started? How many years ago?
This is year number 5 for doing the Halloween display.
And do you know what your very first inflatable is?
Yes, and I still have it, actually.
That's where it all started?
Yes, clearance from Spirit Halloween. And he still works, he still lights up, inflates good and everything still, which is amazing. But that's what started everything.
So that grew into this. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this look at the King of Halloween's incredible, insane, huge Halloween display. My very first time here, I can't really say how amazing it is because I've seen his videos, I've seen photos, but until you come in person, you really can appreciate all the work and dedication he's put into this. It really is a great attraction, and as we've been here, I'm getting covered in smoke. People have been rolling in on their cars, you know, driving by, taking pictures, getting out, walking around. So it's great that he's offering something for the community here to come out and see, because what he's doing is kind of a lost art. Not a whole lot of people do it nowadays, and as the struggles he's went through, kind of says why. So I'm glad he stuck it out, he fought the war, and now he is able to put this on year after year, and I'm sure you have plans to go bigger and better, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, as incredible as it is, he is going to be even bigger and better for years to come. If you want to see any progress on his display, obviously his channel will be linked down below. He does a lot of shorts and updates on animatronics, inflatables. All the information you want to get will be found on his channel. But I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come out here and check it out. And if you have any questions, feel free to have at him. I'm sure he could be the man to answer them for you. Otherwise, to see more Halloween related videos, check that link down below as well. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.